every action Jesus took, everything he said is a model of how we're supposed to be. You can't drop out one line of what he said or did. So I, in the way I was raised, Jesus says, love your enemy. That's not, we don't need to know that. That's not important, right? That he said that. That's not a big point. The message is he died and rose again. You invite him into your life, you go to heaven. That's the message. Yeah, but he also said, you got to do good to those that hate you and, all that stuff. Yeah, I know, but yeah, that's not important because he's not paradigmatic. He's just a means to an end. So we need him when we need him. And when that doesn't work, we set him over here and go do whatever it is really that we just want to do. So if I want to go, kill my enemy, I can find other passages away from Jesus that can let me do it. But I can't have Jesus standing there because he won't allow it. So I've got to use him for what he's usable for, but then disregard him for what gets in my way. Right? Do you see? So if he's paradigmatic, then every story in the gospel is huge. Right? So for example, the disciples don't see him as paradigmatic. Initially, they see him as a means to an end. That's how they view him. And that's why he gets frustrated with them. And so, for example, when he's making them popular, they love him. Like, yay, Jesus is making me popular. He's giving us favor. We're gaining favor among people. And then Jesus starts to say things that upset people. And the disciples are like, why are you what are you doing? Like, that's not the right thing to do. And then he starts talking about his death and they're like really confused then. And so, but even along the way, so they're in this, they're in the storm and Jesus is asleep in the boat. So if he's a means to safety, if he's a way to safety and security and all that, the fact that he's sleeping through a storm is pretty disturbing. Because hey, you're our what's going to keep us alive here. We need you to wake up. And so when they wake him up, they say to him, the two things they believe that aren't true. One is, don't you care? Like you obviously don't. That we're going to die, right? So those two lies that they believe. And so why are they going to, how do you know he doesn't care? He's asleep. And how do you know you're going to die? Our rescuer is asleep. He's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So we've got to get him to do it. What do we have to do to get Jesus to keep us safe, to make our country strong, all that stuff? So they wake him up, and it's interesting how he responds. First he silences the storm, which makes them even more terrified once he does that. They're like, whoa, who is this guy? Hold on, who is this guy? But then he challenges them, why don't you guys believe about yourselves what God believes about you? Why do you think I'm the magic charm to something? If you had the faith to believe what God says about you, I'm showing you as a model, as a paradigm, what you as a real human connected to God would be doing in the middle of a hurricane. You'd be at rest. So he's modeling. He's a paradigm, and they're not looking at him as a paradigm. They're looking at him like, man, if our lucky charm goes to sleep, we're all going to die. Which is how a lot of us view God and Jesus. That's what we look at. It's like he's not doing what he should be doing as our means to an end. So what Jesus is doing, he's not showing you how to avoid suffering. He's showing you how to suffer in the right way. That's what he's doing. He's not taking away suffering. He's showing you how a person who understands the depth of who they are and who God is and who the other is, how they walk through suffering. Right? So when Jesus, dies, and this is a little bit heavier of a theological statement, but he's not dying in our place because we're going to die. He's dying to make a place for us. That's what he's doing. So he's demonstrated, he's taking away the power of death in order that we can die with joy. That's it. He's not saying you're never going to die. He's saying it's for the joy set before me I endured the cross. So we're going to go into the death. We're not going to try and avoid it. Like, yay, we have Jesus. Now we're not going to die. And if you love Jesus, the hurricane will hit the other neighborhood. The fire will burn down all the bad people, but the Jesus people are all safe. And we even say things like that, right? It's the liberal community out there, and God's, doing Sodom and Gomorrah on California, like that kind of stuff. Like, would Jesus say that? Would Jesus, the paradigm, say that? Never. Never. Would Jesus, as the one that makes my team win, do it? Yeah, he might, but that's not the Jesus. Then we have to like throw out the life of Jesus and just pull in these little epitaphs that go our way. So Jesus is he's showing us as a human, fully divine, fully mind of Christ, indwelt by the Holy Spirit, all the spiritual blessings in the heavenly places in you right now, everything you need for life and godliness, you have it all right now. Okay, if you have all that, what does it look like when someone wants to kill you? What does it look like when you suffer? What does it look like when you love? What does it look like? He's the paradigm for how we're supposed to look. And I'm telling you, I've been in Bible studies with very senior believers who have the idea that Jesus came and died and suffered so we don't have to.